So is it too early to start talking about Sonic Movie 4? Well, probably. So last week it was confirmed that this movie is going to release March 19th in 2027. Not only that, we also have an early but official logo already released. So yeah, we're in the swing of the Sonic Movie 4 news cycle. All right, not really. We definitely have a very long way to go, but that's not stopping leakers and Hollywood insiders from having some information about what to expect for Sonic Movie 4. Now, granted, it's still very early on in the process, so it's not really so much as to whether or not what they're saying is true or not. It's more so about the interesting discussion surrounding what they're saying, because it is pretty plausible that stuff like this could appear in Sonic Movie 4. So here it is from Hollywood Handle with 64,000 likes on Twitter. It says, Sonic 4 will reportedly feature time travel elements in theaters on March 19, 2027. Now, you'll notice the source that they have is Daniel RPK, who is a noted Hollywood insider slash leaker slash whatever you want to call him. Here's also a tweet from Screen Time, which is suggesting the same thing. Sonic 4 reportedly will feature time travel elements, and this is once again via Daniel RPK. He's definitely been right about things in the past, and he's also been wrong about things in the past. It doesn't really matter as to whether or not this is true, but I mean, based off of what we saw in the post-credit scene, it definitely feels like the concept of time travel is 100% on the table for this movie. We also can't forget that allegedly the concept of time travel was on the table for Sonic Movie 3, and that eventually was scrapped from the movie. When you throw characters like Amy and Metal Sonic into the mix at the same exact time, it's clear that they're going to take at least some inspiration from both of their debut games, which is Sonic CD. The idea that they could be adapting the story of Sonic CD for a movie is pretty exciting because you think about it, the plot of this game is actually extremely simple. There's not as much going on to it, so that means there's a lot more creative flexibility for how the movie could end and the contents of the movie, whereas opposed to Sonic Movie 3, you know, since it was adapting SA2, there was some limitations for what they could do. We're gonna go into Sonic 4 completely blind, and the craziest thing is, especially the way it was introduced in the post-credit scene, we really have no idea exactly which direction this is going to go. The idea that there could be some elements of time travel in Sonic 4 is interesting because Sonic CD is also a game that features elements of time travel. In this game, an enormous lake called Never Lake is known for being the location where Little Planet appears once every year. This planet is home to the Time Stones, which are 7 gemstones that can control time, obviously. In Sonic CD, you can go into the past, you can go into the future, and you can also just maintain yourself in the present. Dr. Eggman, of course, anchors Little Planet during its annual return to the mountain and builds a shell around it. And from there, Eggman uses the passages on Little Planet to invade its past, filling it with robot transporters and Metal Sonic holograms to ensure a future where he has total control. This turns Little Planet from a green, lush land into a ruined, post-apocalyptic hellscape under the control of Dr. Eggman. When we look at the concept art for the post-credit scenes of Sonic 3, it seems exactly that is what took place. One thing you'll notice about this picture is obviously Eggman is the emperor and the ruler of this post-apocalyptic hellscape. You also see in the bottom left corner, it looks like there's something of a portal there. Maybe that could be somewhere where time travel occurs or takes place, but the city in the background is clearly in ruins. With Eggman being the ruler and Metal Sonic by his side, as well as a golden supersonic quill, with that background, it looks like some type of conquering took place. But also at the same time, this could be a different planet that he's on. This could be Little Planet. Perhaps he could be in the future. We don't really know. We already know that there's been an expressed desire for Jim Carrey to return in Sonic the Hedgehog 4. There's also been indication on his part that he's certainly open to the idea, which is pretty crazy because I don't think he's ever done a trilogy, let alone a quadrilogy, but the team definitely wants him back. The writers of the film have also said they left it open to whether or not he could return, and Jim himself has expressed interest, so potentially if the price is right, maybe he will return, and Sonic 4 could likely be the final film for Jim Carrey as Eggman. I really hope he does return because, come on guys, how do we get a movie with Metal Sonic without Dr. Eggman? I know some people, they like the satisfying end that Ivo had in Sonic Movie 3, but at the end of the day, I personally think the story would be much better with Eggman involved. Also, I think it'd be pretty cool to include Dr. Eggman because if you do that, you still would have an arc with like a Neo Metal Sonic potentially betraying his creator, which just seems in line with something that Metal Sonic would do, considering that he's done it in a few games. It just feels like it's kind of hard to have one without the other, although of course they could obviously do it. The coolest thing that you may have not noticed from the Sonic Movie 3 post-credit scene is if you increase the brightness on the Metal Sonic scene, you will notice that the one in the middle has the actual color palette of the original Metal Sonic, and the other ones behind him are a different color, so clearly it seems like there's going to be one true main Metal Sonic. So the idea that they could possibly introduce time travel as a concept into the movie, as well as maybe at the end of the movie you have Metal Sonic go rogue and just betray everyone, and imagine he like destroys destroys all the other fake Metal Sonics and he becomes the true Neo Metal Sonic or whatever, this creates a very interesting prospect for the fourth Sonic movie, because for the first time, it's not going to be this villain that's actually a friend of Sonic's. There's going to be no power of teamwork and friendship that turns the bad guy good like Shadow and Knuckles. This is going to be a straight up battle to the death with Metal Sonic, and they're going to have to actually finish him off. Try as Sonic might to try and avenge or save Metal Sonic, but there's no possibility for that in my opinion. So Sonic the Hedgehog 4 could definitely be setting up for a crazy finish, but I want to get back into the time travel stuff because there's a lot of interesting possibilities for what could be on the table for this. In my opinion, the cut concept art of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 also conveys a similar feeling that we saw from the Metal Sonic artwork as well. It looks kind of like this post-apocalyptic hellscape. Clearly there's a different robot there. It's not Metal Sonic that she's defeated, but also the sky in the background looks a lot more ominous and kind of matches the Metal Sonic concept art. So potentially this could be that bad future that may have been envisioned for the time travel plot that they were going to introduce for Sonic 3. So it could be possible that Amy Rose is a time traveler. Now, I'm going to be honest, I really would not like the idea of her being a time travel. I feel like that alters her origins just like way too much. Like they altered Shadow's origins in Sonic movie 3, but it felt like it was still very much in line with his original backstory. She has this random hooded look. Like she kind of does look like a time traveler, so it's certainly something that could be a possibility. Plus the moon is also still split in half, so maybe that could have something to do with her appearance. Certainly the time travel elements do make sense, because if you look at the way Metal Sonic appeared in Sonic 3, you'll notice behind Sonic that there was like a lightning spark. Metal Sonic spawned in with electricity. It was not the similar way that traveling is done in the Sonic movie universe where they're coming through rings. Like he just appeared through sparks of electricity, which could indicate that yes, this time travel theory does make sense. So potentially Metal Sonic is traveling through time and maybe Amy Rose is following him around. Almost like a reverse of Silver the Hedgehog, but more on him later. You also notice that during the end of the third movie, there's a racing scene. So clearly they convey that there wasn't a lot of time that passed from the end of movie 3 to the post-credit scene. So it kind of lends itself to the idea that time travel is involved, because there's no way in the short amount of time between the end of movie 3 and the post-credit scene, which seems to take place in one sequence, that there's an entire army of Metal Sonics created to lock down and hunt Sonic and find him, with Amy Rose chasing after this Metal Sonic as well. So in my opinion, that definitely implies a greater passage of time has taken place in the grand scheme of things relative to the current timeline. Now, you'll also notice in the final post-credit scene that there's an unknown planet that you-know-who survives in. That, of course, would be Shadow the Hedgehog, which could set us up for a potential spin-off or maybe a continuation of the post-movie 3 plotline. Now, if Shadow's alive, that would also imply that as long as Jim Carrey is willing to return, that Eggman survived as well, considering that they were in very close proximity to each other during the explosion, and Shadow survived. I mean, he was super, but we are certainly set up for that. With Eggman alive, that opens up the possibility to many things happening, and if time travel is something that they want to incorporate into the movie, it certainly could be that. We know that Chaos Emeralds do have the ability to do some type of time traveling, as evidenced in Sonic 06. You know who else is in Sonic 06? That would be Iblis, who was featured in the Knuckles series, which is still kind of insane. I can't even wrap my head around that. So if time travel is going to be something that they explore for Sonic movie 4, I do think that Silver the Hedgehog could potentially play a role in the post-credit scenes for Sonic 4. I don't think he would actually appear in Sonic 4 in the main movie, kind of similar to Amy Rose. They're going to want to spend as much time as they possibly can showing the potential Robotnik survival, Metal Sonic being created, Amy Rose's story, and then if they do time travel, a host of other issues they might have. Time travel is very risky. I'm not sure I necessarily want them to go in that route, but if the reports are true, it's hard to say whether or not they are, because we are so early. This film has probably not even started the pre-production process yet, so I do find it a little hard to believe, but it seems like it could certainly be possible based off of what we've seen so far and based off of what they wanted to put into Sonic 3, which is why it doesn't necessarily matter if the report is 100% correct or not, because at the end of the day, if they're adapting anything from Sonic CD and based off of some of that artwork, it seems like it's on the table. So let me know what you guys think.